Okay, yo. This is part 2 in our series on biomechanics of disc golf. Today we're going to be talking about footwork. Hopefully I get this all done in one take. Hopefully I remember it all. Yeah, let's get straight into it. The premise of the disc golf run-up is that we generate momentum, which is then transferred into the disc via the plant, which is that last step. The other function that the footwork has is getting our hips into the throw, we'll call it. So the first part of the run-up that we're going to address is the actual run-up itself before the X step in the plant. There's not much to it. I like to think the simpler the better, so I don't like it when people muck around with too much fancy direction changing. One thing I will say is if you're throwing towards the target like this, then you want to run up on a slight diagonal so that you can stagger your body and reach back and pull through on a straight line just like that. Doesn't matter how long it is, all that matters is how much speed you take into the actual X step and throw. So you can do literally whatever you want leading up into just that first step that goes 90 degrees to the target. So let's address that. The start of your X step starts with a plant 90 degrees to the target. You can try to reduce that, but it really doesn't matter so long as you're not getting caught up too far behind. I think 90 degrees works well because it teaches you to square up your body with the target. Perfectly fine. The next step that follows is the back foot coming around. There is some variation in this. Some people do a hop like this. Some people don't even actually step behind. They'll just do a hop step like that. It doesn't really matter how you do it as long as that foot gets into this position. You'll see people like Aaron Gossage get their feet off the ground during this step, or Eric McCabe get their feet off the ground. All you're trying to do is set yourself up to push into the plant, carry that momentum through, and make sure that you're not doing one of two things. So this first step is 90 degrees to the target. The second step, you actually want to be maybe 135 from the target. So if you're too square, then you can't get this foot far enough through and you lose some momentum. And if it's too far back like this, then when you go to plant this final foot, this is a bad position because you're trying to rotate off your heel. So we don't want to do that. So the key with this step is 135 degrees and we want to plant on our toe, leading into the final step, which we'll talk about, is the plant or the brace. So this final step is where we stop all of our momentum, and the general principle that we're trying to go for here is that all that momentum goes into the disc. Obviously it's not all going to go into the disc, but that's the theory. So the faster you run up, the more of an angle you're going to have to step like this, because if you think about the force vectors, you're going to have to lower the force vector to apply more force into the ground so that reaction force is that way. So if you're running up slow, you can get away with having a stance like this. But if you watch Jasper Till, he has to get way out in front of him just to stop that run up because he does carry so much momentum in. That's all about stopping the force. The other thing that this front foot does is once we stop, this rotates. So the knee straightens or gets very close to straight, and then this right leg externally rotates. And it's very key that you rotate on your heel. It does one of two things. First of all, it creates a more solid reaction force off the ground. It's like stomping instead of just doing it with your toes. It means that you're more effective stopping, again, because the force vector going that way is more effective. The other thing that does is it means that you have a straight line that you can rotate around. the axis is just your leg. So that makes it easy to think about rather than trying to think about rotating like this. So plant on the heel, rotate through, and then this back foot is what we're going to talk about next. This is the higher level footwork things. So if I had to tell you to do a couple things there, it's all those things I just talked about with the brace, and also notice my final step is staggered. Again, this is because we're creating space for the disc to reach back straight and pull through in a straight line. That's all that is doing. The other thing this is doing is when you're planting, you're also setting your hips up to be facing backwards. So at the right leg, you're starting off internally rotated. The left leg starts off a little bit almost externally rotated. And this is the key with the back leg mechanics, is this back leg is going to internally rotate like this. So again, your left leg has a little bit of bend, this one's straight, this one's going to rotate on the heel, this one's going to rotate on the toes. This is going to internally rotate, this is going to externally rotate. Hips fire. So a way you can practice that is just think about putting this knee into the back of this knee. So just like that. Just like that. That's all there really is to that back leg footwork. This is where I have probably the biggest critiques of my form, is my back leg is very straight when I do this. But if you slow down my videos, I actually do get internal rotation of the back leg, which is why I think it's not as bad of a habit as people sort of think it is. I live with it, I deal with it, but there is some injury risk with this. It doesn't place your hip in a very good position. Yeah, I think that's pretty much covered it all, to be totally honest. I just want to go over some of the muscles that are key for the footwork. So, first of all, there's lots of sideways stepping. So that's abduction and adduction. Your hip abductors are mainly glute medius and glute minimus. They also do internal rotation. So it's a good muscle group that you want to train just to make it a little bit more resilient and stretch also, because you have internal rotation of the back leg, you have lots of abduction as you're running up. So that's a key muscle group. You also have your adductors, so adductor longus brevis and magnus. I think your gracilis and pectineus also do that, but mainly adductor longus brevis and magnus. So they are responsible for anything that is bringing your legs together. So this step here, you're adducting like this, and they're getting stretched if you're throwing from a very wide foot posture. So just make sure that you watch out for that. Stretch, strengthen, sorted. The only other thing is glutes and hip flexors, but they don't really do much unless you're really putting effort into your throw. Your glutes kind of have some action in that last step if you're too far back, but not really. I think I've covered it all, to be honest. I think that's all you need to know about footwork. You should be able to spot those habits, I guess. A very key thing to remember is plant at 90 degrees. It's very easy to open up too early, then your hips are too far forward and you can't get a good sequence. So what we're really aiming for is feet plant, knees turn, hips go forward, shoulders turn, arm throws. That's our sequencing with our throw. So it's really that lag that we create through the thoracic spine. You see how my hips are forward and my shoulders are back. That creates elastic energy that gets unwound through the stretch shortening cycle. More power. I think that's it. I think we covered. See you in the next one.